Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
My name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today, but first, I have a question. Jeff, how are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. How about yourself?
Pretty good. It's been, I'm still not at work. Like I'm still under quarantine, so it's been boring.
Yeah.
Like I've been, I had a whole big list of stuff I wanted to get done over the quarantine, and nearly all of it's done. So I don't know. My sleep schedule has been really screwed up. Like a couple days ago, I was up until 11 a.m. the next day before I was able to fall asleep. And then last night I took some sleeping pills to try and get myself to fall asleep on time. And then I slept for like 12 hours.
Yep.
So I don't know.
You just end up oversleeping and yeah. Anytime I take like a melatonin or something to help sleep, all that really does is just makes me drowsy in the morning.
Yeah. That's the thing. After I do wake up all day, I feel like I could go back to sleep.
Yeah. Well, that's me pretty much any day, but
I guess.
Yeah, no, like the first week I was like out, like I wasn't at work. I kept my sleep schedule fairly normal. Like at least I was trying to get up early and just kind of keep on the same level. The second week though, it was all bets were off. I was up till like somewhere between 3 and 5 in the morning, and now I'm back at work, so I'm at a normal schedule for the most part. But
okay,
yeah.
I've been 3D printing some more miniatures. I mentioned to you before we started recording. And one thing that I was planning on doing, I recently backed Hero Forge's Kickstarter, because Hero Forge is offering either painted minis or just printed in color minis. And so they had a big Kickstarter for that. And I'm not really interested in that because I would rather print and paint my own minis. But I did back one of the tiers that they had was it gives you a discounted rate if you were to get a bunch of the 3D files. And so I went and I got a whole bunch of those. So I've got like 30 miniatures worth of vouchers.
Nice.
And I'm really excited to do some cool stuff with that. I would like at some point, if you can, Jeff, I want you to make a miniature of yourself. Okay. And then I will make one of myself and then send it to me and, send me the link, and I'll get the file for it. And then I will print and we can paint some miniatures of ourselves.
Okay,
and then make some podcast art out of it, maybe, question mark.
Yeah.
One thing that I wanted to do, I'm a big fan of the game Betrayal at House on the Hill. And in that game, it comes with miniatures. I've actually got them here on my desk. It comes with miniatures, but they're kind of awful.
Yeah, they're not great, but they're quite a bit smaller than a normal miniature.
They are. But they're not very well painted. I'm sure it was all mass produced. Also, the ones that I have at least are like bent at weird angles because from shipping and whatnot. Also, there are 12 playable characters, but only 6 miniatures because like each miniature is supposed to represent 1 or 2 of the characters. And so an idea I had, if I'm not able to use my 30 vouchers on anything else of note, I was thinking of basically making new miniatures for Betrayal at House on the Hill. And then, make the 6 that are there and then make 6 additional ones and then try and tailor them to be more the specific characters. And I thought that would be really neat. Maybe I could post them online and then other people could use them and play them with their games too.
Sure, yeah. That'd be cool.
I don't know. We'll see. So I thought that would be fun. Other than that, I'm just really excited I want to make minis of characters that I've played in D&D. I want you and Jay and Steve to make minis of your characters from stuff. I'd love to print all of these and just have like a big, huge collection of miniatures of characters that I've either played as or played with.
Sure. Yeah. That'd be cool.
I just thought that'd be really fun. I guess, do you have anything else before we start?
No, not really. Just,
okay.
Just been hanging around.
Yeah, pretty much. It's been, Jeff, like, I'm sure to you, because you're like, I still have to get up and go to work. I'm sure you're thinking to yourself, I would love to have more time off, but like, I don't want more time off, Jeff. I wanted to go back to work on the 6th.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get that. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind not having to go to work. I wouldn't mind working from home somehow, just to not have to worry about it anymore. But
yeah. Oh, well, just understand it's not, I'm not just like kicking back. Yeah, I don't have to go to work.
Right, yeah.
I would love to be able to get out of the house.
Sure.
All right. Well, I think, Jeff, I want you to imagine that you're walking down the street and you hear a person call for you down a dark alleyway. You hear, psst, psst, hey, you.
No. I approach the alley.
You approach the alley. You may, of course, make sure to keep a good social distance of at least 6 feet.
Of course.
You see there's an individual. He's wearing a face mask. He's wearing gloves. And he says, hey, I've got this cool map. And it leads somewhere cool. I would be willing to sell it to you for 10 gold.
Oh, do I have 10 gold?
Do you have any dice on hand?
No, shoot.
Okay. It's all right. I'll roll a d20 to see how much gold you have on you. And of course it lands in that stupid spot on the thing. You have 19 gold, so you can definitely afford this.
Yeah, okay. Sure.
Okay. So you give him the 10 gold, he gives you the thing, and then he starts cackling maniacally and he throws down a smoke bomb. And next thing you know, he's gone. Which is odd because you made the transaction. You got the thing, he got the money, and whatever the case, you look at the map, and do you know where that map leads, Jeff?
Where's it going to take me?
The map is going to take you to the Dragon's Hoard.
That seems like a good thing, right?
What if the map just like took you to the Burger King down at the end of the street?
Right, yeah. It's just
what if it took you to your own house?
Ooh, that'd be creepy, actually.
That would be creepy. Well, it does not lead you to your own house. It takes you to the Dragon's Hoard. So today's Dragon's Hoard item was submitted by Dustin via Discord, and the item is Grendel Extract.
Grendel Extract.
Grendel, I believe, being I don't think that's what this is referring to because this item has a bit of history. But Grendel was the name of the big beast in I think Beowulf fought Grendel, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Anyway, so the item's description goes as follows. This rare potion is housed inside a cast iron flask and marked with warning signs in multiple languages. In the center of these warnings is an image of the titular beast, the Grendel. Weighing in at just under half a ton with a length of 10 feet, this oversized Komodo dragon matches the legendary name it bears. They are known for one thing: unending ferocity. When met with a rival Grendel, the brain of this beast releases all of its adrenaline. The two beasts fight until one or both of them is dead. The maker of this potion then collects and purifies the remains into a flask. The flask must be made of iron, as anything less would be dissolved. Ingesting this concoction grants the drinker 100 temporary hit points for the next 12 hours.
Wow.
100. Also, for the duration, they are immune to stuns and paralysis and have advantage on all attack rolls. However, this boon carries a bane. The drinker is totally immune to pain, meaning the player is unable to know their current hit point total or the amounts of any damage taken. Okay. They're also unable to rest for the duration and have disadvantage on all death saves. Should they survive the duration, they take 2 levels of exhaustion. Then there is also an author's note. Apparently the inspiration for this item comes from the wonderful book by Larry Niven, The Legacy of Heorot. I believe the T is probably silent. Heorot.
Oh, Heorot.
Which chronicles a colony ship landing on an alien world. They test the strength of their houses by placing a Grendel inside and spraying pheromones to trigger its aggression. If the house remains standing, it is deemed Grendel-proof. So yeah, okay. This is, a lot of that was flavor, but this is a potion that grants the drinker 100 hit points, as well as advantage on all attack rolls and immunity to stun and paralysis. I mean, that alone, that's pretty darn hefty.
Yeah, for sure. 100 temporary hit points. Usually a temporary hit point spell is going to give you maybe at best 12.
Yeah.
Like high level, like it might give you something like that.
Sure.
But 100 temporary hit points, but then you don't get to know what it is. Like that's actually pretty interesting. Like only the DM knows.
It is pretty interesting. I feel like because it's such a long duration, the inability to like know what your hit point total is I feel like it's less significant because of both the duration and the temporary hit points. First off, like how often are you taking 100 points of damage in a day? Sometimes.
Right.
I mean, you're probably higher level. You're probably getting this as a higher level character. But 100 hit points is a lot of hit points. And I imagine that after the fight is over, you can take a short rest. Even if you're not able to get the advantage of rest, like your party members can still take a short rest, right? And if they can, sure, maybe story-wise your character has to be pacing up and down, punching the wall, whatever. The cleric or whatever can still study you and see if you have any wounds, and if so, cast heal on you until the wounds are gone. Now, that's not necessarily going to mean that all your hit points are back, because different wounds, not all wounds are physical impact with a weapon and such. But
Right.
I just imagine that, like, if you know that your party member can't feel his damage or whatever, you're probably going to, between fights, just cast a few heals on him just to be safe. So, I don't know. I think that if this was a very high level treasure, it would probably, this is probably meant for a very high level party. A party where you could be expected to take 100 points of damage, maybe even in one given fight. And then after that, then you don't know.
Now, I'm wondering if you play this like you don't actually describe to the players what it does. Like maybe you could like trick the player who drinks it into thinking that they are like immortal or something. They're indestructible. Like it gives them this like, this ferocity and this like confidence that like, holy crap, I think I'm invulnerable. I don't think I take any damage. What is going on? Like they, something hits them and deals damage to them, but you say you feel nothing and and they're like, how much damage did I take? And it's like, you didn't take any. Like, as far as they know, they didn't take any damage.
Okay.
But meanwhile, you have this like ticking clock of like, okay, let's see how far they'll take it.
Yeah.
And like they might start doing more and more ridiculous things, and like let's see what somebody would do with like if they thought they couldn't take damage, what would they do?
That's okay. That makes this way more interesting. If the players don't know the mechanics of this, I think that's probably a very important part of it. If this were, for example, if the description for this item said, this is a cursed item, the player thinks it makes them invincible.
Right.
It doesn't actually make them invincible. It just gives them 100 temporary hit points, and then they can't feel damage. I like that. I like that a lot because a player might be like, shoot, I'm invincible. Yeah, I'll jump into that volcano. And then,
right, yeah. Like,
oh, okay.
Sure. It's like, how many rounds can you take? I don't know.
Yeah.
There would be the chance that somebody does something so incredibly foolish that they'll just burn through the 100 hit points or whatever pretty easily, or like taking fall damage, that could do it pretty quick.
Sure. Yeah, sure. I'll jump off this cliff, and then
boom.
They get back to the rest of the party, and the rest of the party notices, oh, your arms and legs are backwards, and there's bones sticking out. What is wrong with you?
He's like, nah, it's nothing.
No, I don't feel anything. Look, I still have advantage on attack rolls as they like flap their arm around because their arm is, hanging on by a thread.
Yeah, goodness.
Okay.
So it makes them feel like they have superpowers, and they're just like, well, this is my life now. But
right.
Meanwhile,
I guess let me ask you a question, Jeff. What do you think this would taste like?
Ooh. Well, it's in an iron flask, so it's and like I imagine. Well, isn't it like taken from the what are they called? Grendels?
Yeah.
Yeah, like this is like the remains of one of the Grendels.
Yeah, pretty much.
Probably wouldn't taste great.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't taste great, but at the same time, maybe it would taste. It would taste nasty, but then have like a really good aftertaste, and that's like it's sort of the effect.
Okay.
Coming on as to like, oh wait, no, this is awesome. Like I feel great.
Yeah. Or maybe it the moment it touches your tongue, like you can't taste anything.
Okay, sure. It's taking away more than just your sense of pain. It's also like all your other senses are dulled except for like the ones that are good for fighting.
Or it tastes so bad that the taste itself is pain.
Sure, and then you can't feel it.
There was in the Book of Vile Darkness, there was liquid pain.
Ooh.
Which was like a substance that could be extracted from a creature that was enduring intense pain. So like you would torture someone and then like do some magic thing to them to extract their pain in liquid form.
Okay.
And I don't remember what it did if you drank it, but you could use it as experience when casting spells that cost experience.
Huh.
But anyway, this just made me think of that because like, yeah, what if the Grendel extract tastes like pain and therefore you can't taste it?
Oh, warheads.
Okay.
Like the warhead candy. That's what they taste like.
Okay.
Tastes like pain.
I can see that.
It's so sour that it just like kills the inside of your mouth.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's I'm on board. And because those supposedly everybody knows the one kid that like burned a hole in their tongue or something with warheads. And this will dissolve through anything. Okay. All right. Awesome. I think we solved this one.
Right. Sure.
All right. Well, I think that'll do it for the Dragon's Hoard. Thank you, Dustin, for submitting Grendel Extract. Jeff, if anybody else wanted to submit magic items for the Dragon's Hoard or stories for the Funeral Pyre or Retirement Village, or if they had questions they would like us to discuss, how would they get those to us?
They could send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com or join us on our Interparty Discord at bit.ly/interpartydiscord.
Yep. Yeah, we've been not as much traffic on the Discord lately as as we have in the past, but I think everybody, with the way things are right now, I think everybody is kind of playing it a little low key.
Sure.
Lately,
yeah.
so.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, things are different. People's lives have changed. So
yeah. All right. Well, before we go any further, we have a giveaway to give away today. As usual, we're giving away a copy of Unearthed Tips and Tricks Volume 1, courtesy of Crit Academy. Unearthed Tips and Tricks Volume 1 is a great product that I helped them write. And it is a collection of 25 character concepts, 25 encounter concepts, 25 monster variants, 25 magic items, 25 player tips, and 25 DM tips. It's got a ton of stuff in there. It's a great, great product. Lots of great stuff. Awesome product. So yeah, we're giving away a free copy. And Jeff, who is our winner of Unearthed Tips and Tricks Volume 1 today?
Our winner today is Matthew N.
Winner. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Yes. Congratulations, Matthew N. You should be getting that in your email within the next couple days. And be sure to leave Crit Academy a review. It's super great of them to facilitate this free giveaway. So if you can leave them a review, it'll help them create better products in the future. And it'll also help them get more visibility on platforms like DM's Guild and Drive-Thru-RPG and so on. So yeah, thank you, Crit Academy. You guys are awesome. Thank you, Matthew N., for entering. And Jeff, if anybody else wanted to enter this drawing, how would they do so?
They could send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com with Unearthed Tips and Tricks in the subject line.
Yes, that is correct. So once again, thank you to everybody, and we'll be giving away another one of those every week. And next up, Jeff, I have an announcement.
Mm-hmm.
We have a new patron.
Oh, yeah?
We just got a new top-tier patron, Colton S.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Colton. He said he's been meaning to join for a long time, so I'm glad that, especially, again, we've been saying the last few weeks, we understand things are a little rough right now for a lot of people, so we're especially thankful that Colton was willing to become a patron.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
So, yeah, super huge thanks to Colton. For anybody who is not aware, Patreon is an online platform where you can pledge to donate a certain amount of money to the creator of your choice every month. And if you go to patreon.com/interpartyconflict, We have a few different tiers on there that if you wanted to help out the show monetarily, you can give us $1 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month, and we have different rewards for each of those. So we've got outtakes, we've got fantasy fiction that I've written. I keep forgetting to, I've already completed the next audio fiction. I've been meaning to get it out for a while now. Hopefully by the time this episode goes out, it will actually be out. I've got several of them like 90% finished. So hopefully there won't be as long of a gap as there was between the last two in the future. But yeah, so anyway, we've got outtakes, we've got fantasy fiction that I wrote, some of which are in audio format. We've got a monthly bonus podcast called InterPatron-Conflict, where we talk about various things, we play games and do that sort of stuff. And we also have a monthly Roll20 game. Our next Roll20 game should be happening probably in the first week of May. We'll see. I haven't actually contacted all of our patrons yet to set that up. But anyway, if you want to help out the show and get some cool stuff in return, go to patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. A huge thank you to all of the people who are currently patrons. You guys are awesome. Again, thank you to Colton S. for recently joining. And yeah, if you want to help out the show and get some cool stuff, head there and see if anything appeals to you. One more thing, check out the other podcasts on the Crit Nation Fellowship. Check out Crit Academy at critacademy.com. Crit Academy is a podcast where Justin, Ian, and Brandon create new and reusable content for players and DMs alike. They made the Unearthed Tips and Tricks book that we talked about earlier, and book 2, volume 2, is set to go out in the near future, so keep an eye out for that.
Cool.
So check out Crit Academy. Also check out Brute Force and Ignorance. It is an actual play podcast on the network with some great guys on either side of the Atlantic Ocean. Also check out D&D Character Lab. They are no longer making episodes, but they've got some great episodes out there. Go check them out. Enough of all that. Let's get into some questions, Jeff.
Our first question comes from King J EXE. This was on Discord, and they ask, have you ever used time travel in a game? If so, how? And if not, how would you go about it?
Yeah, I don't think I ever have. Maybe I'm forgetting something.
Maybe there was like a flashback or something at some point, but time travel.
Oh shoot, I forgot. So. Yeah, I forgot about that one. Yeah, that was sort of time travel, sort of not.
Yeah.
I've used like prophecy and such a little bit. And I think a lot of what I have to say about this is probably going to be similar to what we've said in the past about prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
But I would love to be in a game that did use time travel to some extent.
Yeah. Yeah, there's ways to make it just sort of interesting, but not like, I don't know. I feel like time travel you never want to use too heavily.
Yeah. It's one of those things that, like, you know, by its very nature, it creates paradoxes. And so the more you think about it, no matter what the fiction is, or like whether it's a TV show, a movie, a book, a D&D game, whatever it is, the more you think about it, the less sense it makes.
Right.
So it's best used sparingly and usually in some way that is not super technical. Try not to actually explain how it works. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Just kind of, it's mostly just there because it's fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess do the like where it's like alternate reality sort of thing where it's not necessarily like you're not going to change the present or future by going into the past, but you can go to the past to see a thing or go get a thing or whatever.
Sure.
You know, like the way that they did it in Avengers Endgame, like, yes, there are some like wait, how did that work? There is some weird like plot holes and weird questions, but for the most part, it's just sort of whatever. It's fun.
Yeah.
Like what's not to love about a time heist,
Exactly.
So like, I guess just sort of treat it like that and try not to worry about it and everything else.
Yeah. Cause, there are different kinds of time travel and different intellectual properties. And let me actually take a quick little sidebar here and say, it always annoys me when someone complains about a movie that used time travel and then they say, but this shouldn't have happened because time travel works this way. And it's like, well, hang on a minute. No, it doesn't. Like, time travel isn't real.
Right. You can't try to science time travel because it doesn't exist.
Exactly. You can't say this would or would not happen in time travel because time travel isn't a thing that we know how it works. So just because one piece of fiction had time travel work one way doesn't mean that time travel has to work that way in other pieces of fiction. Now, that doesn't mean that every piece of fiction is internally consistent. That's definitely a thing to complain about.
Right.
But just I love time travel, but when people are like, no, you can't do that because it would create, you can't interact with your past self. And it's like, well, why not? or whatever. I mean, just because you can't in Back to the Future doesn't mean that you can't in Terminator or whatever.
Right. Or, that doesn't mean that Fry can't go back in time and become his own grandpa.
Sure. So if you are ever going to use time travel, I recommend try not to use it. There are some works of fiction that try to use it as a closed loop. For example, some small Harry Potter spoilers, but in the third Harry Potter book / movie,
yeah,
there is a bit of time travel that comes into play. And every time something happens when the characters go into the past, you can realize that same thing already happened earlier in the movie. There will be some sort of a thing that at the time you just thought was kind of weird. And then when you see later on, the players actually caused that. Not the players, but the characters. Right. Because it's a D&D game, apparently.
Right, yeah.
So in that universe, a lot of people have complained about, well, what was the original timeline? Like, it doesn't need to have an original timeline because it is its own thing. Anyway, if it is a closed loop, that means that everything that happened before is going to happen again. I'll just say it is not going to work in a D&D game.
Okay.
Because like many things that work in a book, it relies on the characters being of the same mind as the writer. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Like the DM doesn't have control over what the players are going to do. So like they could try and predict it, but it's just not going to work.
Yeah. Like if the players want to make the same thing happen that happened before, that's cool. If the dungeon master could somehow work with the players and get them to do specific actions, maybe that would be fun to play. I don't know. I don't think it would be, but hey, I've never done it.
Then there's the whole roll of the dice thing too.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
I think that more than anything, really, because it's like,
yeah.
Thinking of the Harry Potter example, I can't remember what happens in the books versus what happens in the movies because I haven't read the books in a long time and I just recently watched the movies. Mm-hmm. There's a part where they're in Hagrid's hut and the minister is like coming down the hill to go to Hagrid's hut and like they can't be seen by them. So like, right before the minister comes to the hut, there's like a rock comes through the window and hits Harry in the head. Yeah. And that like gets his attention to look out the window. And then he sees the minister and they're like, oh, they go out the back door. And then that ends up like, and it's a good shot in the movie because like the rock that hits his head is a very unique like shape to it.
Yeah.
So that when it comes back around when they're time traveling or whatever, like he sees that rock and he's like, oh, I'm supposed to throw this. And he like, he throws it in and hits himself in the head or whatever.
Right.
But in D&D, it's like you throw the rock and like a rock hits you in the head and then you look out the door and to sneak out the back. But then you get around to that point and you're like, you throw the rock and miss because you rolled a 2,
Yeah.
So now what happens?
Yeah. And if you wanted to do this sort of game, you could get around, if you're the dungeon master, you could get around this by just saying, oh, it automatically hits because it already happened.
Right.
You could do that. But I mean, again, you're relying on the players to make the decisions that you want them to make. Mm-hmm. It's really cool when that happens in fiction. However, it does require so much specific setup and there really can't be player agency. Yeah. In a case where the dungeon master or the writer or whatever is setting this up. It kind of has to be one person is dictating everything that happens. Mm-hmm. Now, here's a thing. The podcast, the Film Reroll, I've mentioned them many, many times. They're an actual play podcast where they what?
Oh, sorry. I was going to bring up not them specifically, but
Okay.
But the thing that the movie that you're gonna talk about.
Oh, okay. So the Film Reroll, they're an actual play podcast where they play GURPS and they play through the plots of movies.
Mm-hmm.
They did Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Yeah.
Which, for anybody who's not seen that movie, it's a movie about time travel. These two, like, 90s surfer dudes without the surfer, I guess. These two burnouts or whatever.
Oh yeah, they're the, like, high school, like burnouts. They want to start a band, that kind of thing.
They're given a time machine by themselves from the future, show up, and with a friend, with this other guy from the future, they give themselves the time machine, and then they go through the movie, and then later on, they have to come back with the time machine to give it to their past selves. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how this maybe there's a way to make this work in just a regular tabletop game, but the way they did it for the podcast is when they first played out that scene, I don't know exactly what they did, but later on when they recorded that scene the second time, because it is a podcast, they used they basically redid that scene later on and then put it into the earlier episode so that they would have literally the exact same scene happening from both perspectives.
Right, yeah.
So like they redid an earlier scene with the later knowledge so that it would happen the same way, which I think is really cool. But again, that's the kind of artifice that has to happen when you are trying to create a closed loop like this.
Right. Yeah. It another thing from that movie that this is making me think of, there's a scene at towards the end of the movie where they're trying to get away from Ted's dad or something, because like Ted's dad like works at a police station or something. I think he's like
the
chief
sheriff
or something, or I'm not sure. But
yeah.
There's like they keep doing this thing where they're like, okay, we don't have the keys or whatever, but what we could do is wait till later when my dad's at home, get the keys from there, and then go back in time and put the keys somewhere here for us to have. And he's like,
yes.
Well, where? I don't know. How about over on that behind that bush? And they go over behind that bush and the key is there.
There are the keys. Yeah.
The keys are right there. So like maybe you could do something like that with your players. Like they have some sort of time travel device or something, and like they can use it so many times.
Yeah.
And you could give it, it's almost like a wish in a way. But maybe for more like mundane stuff, like oh crap, we don't have this thing we need. Well, and then we don't have time to go get it. Well, okay, what if we just went and got it, but then went back in time and gave it to ourselves earlier?
Yeah.
Oh shoot, it's in my pocket now. Like,
well, so here's actually a way that you can do that, because now that you mention it, that is amazing, and that is a great. So here's what you do. You could do it like you said, where you have a certain number of uses of the time machine, quote unquote, whatever the time machine is. Could be a magic spell, could be an actual physical time machine, whatever. Mm-hmm. They have a certain number of uses, and every time they need something, they don't have it now. They theoretically could get it later, but they can make an intelligence check. If they succeed, that means later on, they remembered to do this exactly the way that they needed to.
Right.
Maybe if they failed by like just a couple points, they did it, but it didn't work out the right way. They got the wrong thing. They put it in the wrong place, whatever.
Yeah.
And then if they failed, that means they just flat out forgot to do it. Huh. So that way, the players are trapped. They're in, a dungeon or something, and oh shoot, the door just caved in. We need some way to get through that. I'm going to use this, I'm going to make this intelligence check. If they succeed, then yeah, they just like pick a place, look behind a rock. There's, I don't know, a wand of disintegrate or whatever will get them out of the room.
Yeah.
But then that uses up a use of the thing, and the dungeon master has to play after the adventure is over. The dungeon master then has to have them play out getting that thing and then taking it back and putting it there. Because if they need something ridiculous, like they're like, okay, we need a tamed beholder that we can ride on and whatever, then okay, now they have to play out an adventure where they have to go get a tamed beholder and then bring it back to the past.
That's a wild adventure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so then like they have to do it. I don't know what the consequences are if they don't, but that then leads to more game, and also they can't abuse it because they've only got so many uses.
Right. Maybe it could be like a in Ocarina of Time, Feore's Wind.
Is that the one where you place like you basically put a teleport point somewhere and then go somewhere else?
Yeah, it is a thing that where you can you put it in like to the door of a room of a dungeon. So you enter the room of a dungeon and then you put down a thing at that door, so that I think if you leave the dungeon and come back, you can resume from that point. It's like it's a sort of like self-made checkpoint sort of thing.
Okay.
I never used it. I don't remember ever using it much in the game, but it was. I
don't know if I ever used it ever, to be honest.
But it's sort of like you set down this like waypoint, but it's like a time waypoint where like, okay, we need it, there is sort of a time limit on their main mission is to like stop a ritual, save a princess, whatever. Mm-hmm. And they're like, okay, crap, we can't get through this unless we have this thing, but that thing is like a mile away from here. What are we going to do? And they set down this little waypoint thing. They're like, okay, let's just go and get it. And like, yeah, they leave behind the princess or whatever, or like the guy succeeds in opening up the hellhole or whatever. But then they grab the thing and then they click the waypoint and it takes them back in time to, they go and grab the thing they need and brings it, and they, you know what I'm saying? They come back in time and end up with the thing that they need.
Yeah.
But like, they might only have so many times that they can use it.
Sure. If you're not looking to have it be like a thing that the players can easily use like this, if you're just trying to have like the plot revolve around time travel, then I would just encourage any dungeon master to use it more like, I think the way that I said that I like to use prophecy is that it's not that everything that is prophesied is guaranteed to happen. It's that this is the most likely outcome, and you can definitely change it. So although you might go into the future and see, oh, this thing happened, then that doesn't mean that every action is going to lead to that result. But it means unless you do something to change it, then, so like, I guess it could be possible to go with this sort of a framework to go back in time and change the present. However, I don't know. It's up to the individual dungeon master whether they want to get into paradoxes and such. Yeah. Like, I don't know. The more work you have to put into thinking about it, the worse it is, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Like, running a game to begin with is already enough work. Just try to make like a simple, easygoing way to use time travel. Lighthearted, a goofy thing that you can use. Right. Try not to have it be like too intensive.
Mm-hmm. Although I kind of like the idea of like, if this is almost taking something from like almost like Futurama. I forget. It's the first movie?
Okay.
That they get that they have like the time travel. It's the first
the binary code for time travel.
Right. That's on Fry's butt.
Yes.
So like, anytime there's a paradox, it's a self-correcting paradox, so where it kills, like if there ends up being two of one person, one of them has to die because it's a paradox thing.
Yes.
What if it's like if a paradox is created or like something like that happens, like everything gets like shifted to normal, but it creates like a monster or something.
Okay.
So it could create a beast or some sort of like aberration or something that like like because you've messed with time or whatever, like
Jeff, I'm 100% on board with this.
Sure.
What if all of the aberrations that we know of are the result of time paradoxes?
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, that really plays into like mind flayers and lithids, because like they're apparently maybe from the future or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's one of the theories or one of the stories behind them.
Like aboleths claim to have been from the beginning of time, and like maybe they are the result of
somebody traveling,
the time paradox that created the universe or something.
Ooh. Or I was thinking like somebody who tried to go back in time to see the creation of the universe, like that's what created the aboleths, like that person traveling back to the beginning of time.
again, I'm 100% on board for this, Jeff.
But then they accidentally brought a fish with them and like and they created these monsters.
This is kind of awesome. I kind of want to run a campaign like this now.
We always do this game. We always come up with these ideas and we're like, this will be a really cool adventure or something. Oh man. But never.
Well, hopefully one of our listeners can make something cool
somebody
out of this.
Somebody please do something with the ideas that we have.
Yeah.
But that I think that'd be kind of cool. Like, and then like every time you like, maybe the players have a way to use this time travel, but every time they do, they end up creating a monster that they have to fight, you know?
Sure.
And they don't like, who's to say what it is or if they can beat it, you know?
Yeah, no, I think that's really cool. That's definitely a way to like, you can basically just say, yes, there will be time paradoxes. If there is, more content happens, you know, but it doesn't have to be something as like complex as, we have to go back in time and reverse whatever. No, it's just like, yeah, there's a time paradox. Everything will be normal, but now there's a big monster you have to fight.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool. Okay. All right. Well, I think, do you have anything else to say about time travel and such?
I could probably make more references to like movies and stuff, but I mean, like, you know, I'm sure the person who asked this, like, you know, has seen enough of that sort of stuff to get some ideas. Sure.
Yeah, I think that's we've probably gotten all of the really good stuff that we're gonna say about it. So I will. Whoops! It's Gabe from the future. End of the question here.
Gabe, there's 2 Gabes. What is going on?
Yep. I had a lot of fun coming up with. We did that one Dragon's Horde intro where Gabe from the future came. And
right, yeah.
It was boring. So I really liked that one. Maybe in post-production I will add in some sound effects there to make that sound better. We'll see. Anyway. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for this question. I thought, you know, there was definitely some really cool stuff we came up with in there. So hopefully someone out there can do something cool with some of this. Cause I love time travel, but it's real hard to do well in a thing with players.
Right. Yeah.
Even in like a video game, like something like Assassin's Creed, that sort of involves time travel, sort of not, but the game has to have a mechanic in place for when you don't do what the author wanted you to do.
Right.
And
yeah.
so
you
kind of have to do that
or whatever.
Yeah.
In that. Yeah. I do remember that. I didn't play most of the later games, but the first couple games, and there was like, it's not really time travel. It's more just like a really involved flashback. Sure.
All right, so that'll do it for this question. I think that'll do it for our regular questions, actually.
Yeah.
So let's move on to our social media questions. Our last social media question was, what is the most bizarre dungeon feature you have ever encountered or put in a game? So, like, have you ever encountered something in a dungeon that was like, you know, a weird portal or a trap or like an altar that when you attack it, blood pours out or something?
Trying to remember what I said. I think it was like the coin slot or something. There was like a coin slot or like a thing you put a ring in that might have been from.
Yes.
There was one from Tomb of Horrors and one from Juzadaroon.
Yes.
Yeah. Like.
One of them was you have to put in a magical ring into the slot in order to get a door to open, and the other one is if you put a large enough coin into a slot, there's like a throne with a hologram of a gnome king sitting in it. And if you put a small coin, if you put a copper coin, you get like shocking grasp or something.
Yeah.
And then if you put a gold or platinum, he like points to a secret door, I think.
Sure. Oh, that's right. Yeah. He does. Yeah, that's what it is. He points to, like, if you put in a silver, he just like, he's just there and says hello or something.
Yeah,
and
something like that.
Yeah. Or like tells a story. And then, if you put in enough, he points towards a hidden door. That sounds right. Yeah.
A classic one, of course, that I've always liked, but I always think stories about it are real stupid, is the green demon face in the Tomb of Horrors.
Oh yeah. The,
spoilers for the Tomb of Horrors, which you shouldn't worry about because the Tomb of Horrors is a terrible adventure that you should not actually play. But the first hallway, you walk in, And of course, it's a trapped hallway. There's tons of traps everywhere. But at the end of this hallway, there's this big green demon face on the wall, and its mouth is open. And in its mouth is just this dark, like, passage or whatever. And lots of things have used this in other media. In the Tomb of Horrors, you come across this big demon face. I'm always hearing stories about people that they're like, yeah, my character just jumped right into the hole. And I'm like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Even if you, like, okay, first off, the whole dungeon is trapped. You already know this
Right.
from having probably encountered 5 or 6 traps by the time you reached the end of the first hall.
Right.
Why would you just jump into a dark hole, even if you don't know that the place is trapped? For all you know, this dark hole is just like a pit and you're going to fall and die.
Mm-hmm.
Put a 10-foot pole in there or something.
Yeah.
Stick your sword in there. Throw a rock into it and see if you hear a noise.
Right. Or I think if you try to put a torch up to the mouth so you can see down the passage, and then wait, there's no light getting through. It's just a wall of blackness.
Just pitch black.
Okay, something's different.
Because I guess I didn't say what it is. It is actually a sphere of annihilation.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that passes through this thing's mouth is utterly destroyed.
Yep.
So if you are in the habit of sticking your head into dark holes for some reason,
you're
going to die.
You're just done.
But you would die if you did that in any other dungeon too. So why did you do that? It's just so bonkers to me. The number of stories I've heard of people's characters getting killed by this demon face.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know that, even if it is not the iconic trap that it is, you should still not treat this any differently than you would treat any other dark hole. At least put your left arm into it, not your right arm.
Yeah, we're sure. Your non-dominant hand.
Exactly.
What am I picturing? I think this must be an illustration from a book or something where it's like there's like a trap with spikes and there's like bloody handprints all over the place.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about? I've no idea.
I do. I know it is in the 5th edition Dungeon Master's Guide, but yeah, it's like kind of like in Goonies when they have to put the key into the thing and turn it and like it like locks their hand in place.
Right.
It's like there's a switch or something and there's like spikes pointing towards it and blood everywhere.
Right.
And it's just a picture of like a wizard or whatever, like reaching their arm towards it.
Yeah. It's like, dude.
Yeah.
Like that's not going to work. You know, this isn't going to work, right?
There are so many things that are telling you not to do this.
like what's your passive perception there, buddy?
Yeah. So I am a big fan of the demon face, even if I think that it's kind of silly for anybody to fall victim to it.
Yeah.
I think I also mentioned in the Return to the Temple of Elemental Evil, there was like a weird, like a giant obelisk that was like balanced on a point and like it's like a fruit you can eat or something. I got some of the details wrong. I did look it up, but the actual dungeon feature is equally bonkers. So go check that out if you ever get a chance. So we got some responses over on Facebook. Sean M says, I'm betting you're really talking about a single dungeon, but I'm here to ruin all of that. One of my favorite experiences and early into really settling into D&D as a hobby around 30 years ago is the Emerald Spire. It's actually a dungeon grinder adventure path from Paizo. The gist is that a wizard once stumbled across a massive towering green crystal and began to research its magical properties. People later discovered the space and found floor after floor offered something to everyone. Goblins, serpent folk, and even water elementals made homes here. What is unknown to many is that this extremely tall spire is nothing compared to how many floors it descends into the earth. I highly recommend this dungeon and one day hope to return and complete this adventure. Our group had a combination of problems from poorly appropriate characters such as my Batman-esque vigilante to actual inter-party conflict. The adventure is a solid 9 out of 10, says Sean M.
Yeah.
Although I think he was talking more about like a full dungeon, still it's built around this like giant crystal. And yeah, it sounds interesting. I'd like to
just the fact that it's like,
check that out.
Like it goes all the way down and it's just like floor after floor after floor. And it's,
Yeah. The DM's Council says teleporting mirrors in different areas of a dungeon that would suck you into a small pocket dimension. You could only escape by having another person sucked in or using the provided sheep in a far earlier room to take your place.
Sheep.
So yeah, I guess these things trap you in a little pocket dimension, but you can put a sheep in your place.
It might just be
escape?
that you have to like put something in to get something out, and in like in the
maybe.
dungeon setting, like the only thing available other than the players themselves is a sheep.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, or maybe there's some special thing with the sheep that allows them to do it. I don't know.
I don't know, maybe.
But it's just like, oh, there's a sheep in this room. What?
Sure. David C. says, the end. It was an alternate dimension that my cousin trapped my character in. It was full of deadly traps and tough monsters to fight as I tried to find my way out. Okay. Should have brought a sheep.
Sure, yeah.
Spoilers for the Chapter 3 of the Pathfinder Adventure Path, Curse of the Crimson Throne. But there's a dungeon called the Vivified Labyrinth with a sphinx inside. 2 sections of the labyrinth are rooms that spin 90 degrees when certain levers are pulled. So the party will walk into a room with seemingly no exit and pull a lever and the room will turn, potentially cutting them off from the party member in the connected lever room and opening new rooms. The whole time, the villain is also able to move rooms and uses this to split the party and hunt them down. I drew the map on my dry erase board like normal, but had cutouts of the 2 moving rooms that I could spin whenever levers were turned. It was awesome. And that sounds awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
My party got all split up the first time and had to retreat, and then had a big planning session and went back in equipped with telepathy and dimension door spells so they could stay connected as the dungeon split them up. Yeah, that sounds really, really cool. That definitely sounds like an awesome way to deal with that, having things you can rotate. This reminds me of, were you there, Jeff, when I first moved back from Tennessee and I was running a 5th edition campaign? There was a dungeon that I got from Ya Magazine, which was a magazine that Tom Russell was the editor of.
Yeah, I think I know what you're... Yeah, go ahead. I think I know what you're talking about, but I wasn't there that session.
Okay. I think Tom wrote this dungeon that I'm about to describe. Mm-hmm. It was essentially like there was an elevator that went from the top floor to like 2 or 3 floors down, and then I think there was just like basically a square of hallways around the elevator. It wasn't very complicated, but each room had a door that would lock and could only be opened by pressing a specific switch in one of the other rooms. And so like I had a map of, if you pull the red switch, this door, and this door open, but then all the others close. And then if you pull the brown switch, this door, and this door open, all the others close. And so it was very tricky with the players not knowing all of the little tricks, having to figure out how they can get around from the front of the dungeon to the back of the dungeon while completely cutting themselves off, because it might be one player has to go alone into this room to activate a switch, which will open a door in another player's room, and then they have to go in there and activate another switch, which will open a door, and so on and so on. It was very complicated, and there was actually a point where the players trapped themselves. And so I ended the session that time, and that following week, I think my brother was going to play with us, so I basically had his character show up at the dungeon as well, and then he was able to open enough doors to save them or whatever.
Right, yeah.
It could have gone real bad.
Yeah.
And maybe it should have. Who knows? But
yeah,
that definitely is what this makes me think of.
Yeah, definitely. I remember, I missed that session or sessions, and like when I came back, there was talk of like, you know, like this is definitely possible to get stuck in this place.
Yeah. So that was everybody on Facebook. Only got one person on Reddit. And Alistar the Minotaur says, a healing potion vending machine.
Oh.
Put your coins in, punch the number, pull the lever, and out comes a healing potion. However, the security system in place recognizes tampering and opens a 20 by 20, 40-foot deep spiked pit that opens up underneath the offending party. I know how my party thinks. Bunch of loot-crazed murder hobos they is. There you go.
That's pretty good.
Over on Twitter, we just got one. Stephen M. says, I once included a room of puzzles in which the party were trapped with a giant sand timer counting down and the sound of machinery in the walls. They soon realized they could reset the timer and spent about an hour trying to solve the various puzzles until I came clean. All the puzzles were unsolvable. To get out of the room, they just had to let the sand timer run out. I was highly amused by the whole thing, but I don't think the party has ever forgiven me. And I feel like when we've talked about puzzles in the past, I know we recently had an episode about puzzles, but I mean like way back. The thing with puzzles is that they might seem incredibly obvious, but if the party just doesn't get it, they're no fun.
Yeah, sure.
So
that reminds me of like I remember watching a video of somebody describing it was like a puzzle room sort of thing where it was basically just sort of like wait and see. Like it wasn't, there wasn't anything to solve. You just had to wait it out. It was like
okay, yeah.
I think it was from the Curse of Strahd. I think it was pulled from. I'm not 100% sure. Where it's just a room that you go into, and like there's a door on one side, and then when you enter it, the door behind you closes, and then there's like a button in the middle, and you push the button, and there's like a timer, and like it counts down very dramatically, and then you hit and if you hit the button again, it resets the timer. So like the players would like freak out when it started counting down, and they push the button again, and then it just keep resetting the timer over and over again, trying to figure out what do we do, and then like meanwhile like the answer is you just push the button and the timer counts down, and then it opens the door, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's just like oh okay.
Yeah. Over on Discord, we got a few. I don't think I'll read all of them, but Joe S. says, I don't remember the module. I believe it was AD&D First Edition. There was a circular room with a statue in the center. When you entered, the door across from you and the door you entered both slam down closed, and the statue turns like a turret. It fired a magic missile every round at a random party member. And I'll just say that very much sounds like a First Edition trap. Closer examination shows there are 2 removable wands in its hand and is pointing with the other. The floor around the statue has holes in a circle around it. The trick is to stick the wands or pegs into the holes so the statue can't point at you and it stops shooting. Then the doors are released. Stressful encounter and a blast. So yeah, I think that's a neat little puzzle there.
Yeah.
And having the thing constantly shooting at you definitely ramps up the tension. So you might not do something that you might not do something conservative because you're afraid of, getting shot. So you're trying to be more aggressive or whatever. It's a good setup for a trap.
Mm-hmm.
Collins B says the Dungeons and Dragons versus Rick and Morty starter set has the most bizarre dungeon I've ever encountered in an official product. On every room has a weird feature, but I'll just share a few. A room where the writer of the dungeon is still in progress writing it, which I think is interesting and terrifying.
Yeah.
A butt trap that steals your butt on a failed dex save, but only half on a success. You choose which half.
Okay.
A room where the party fights mirror versions of themselves, and a Nothic with a concertina, but like a scary concertina. Which I think is that like the little tiny piano?
I'm not sure.
No. A concertina is like the little tiny accordion.
Yeah. I think my dad played one of those at one point.
I got a hold of one when we were in high school at some point. I would walk around the halls between classes playing with it. I don't know. I was so annoying when I was younger. Just when I was younger.
Yeah, and then it stopped very abruptly.
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing. Spapples on Discord says, in Acquisitions Incorporated, The Orrery of the Wanderer, the first dungeon has what's called the Foot Room, where the severed feet of victims sacrificed to an elder god end up.
Oh.
The party gets attacked by over a dozen stomping feet, which are the crawling hand monster reskinned.
Oh, no.
As well as a giant stone foot that stomps down from the ceiling. That's pretty good, actually. In Tomb of Horrors, another callback to this terrible adventure, there are several traps that teleport you back to the entrance with none of your gear.
Mm.
And it does actually say what happens to your gear when you lose it in that way. It ends up in the final treasure room at the end.
Oh.
So it's possible to get it back. And then just one more I'll read from our Discord is from Dustin. And it goes, back in college, I was in a 3.5 campaign that lasted several years. Towards the end, it got very epic. At one point, we traveled to a dungeon on the moon. As we traveled through the dungeon, the layout made less and less sense. The rooms twisted through areas where other rooms should be. Finally, we realized that the entire dungeon was a giant ooze that was just rearranging its body as we were walking around inside it.
Ooh.
The battle to escape was epic.
That's pretty neat.
That is pretty neat.
Yeah, I like that.
In the 3.5 or the third edition manual of the planes, there is a section in the back about, I think it's Geth, the plane that lives. And it is a plane that is alive. Like it's not a big creature per se. I mean, I guess it is, but you are like in its intestines and stuff. Like
sure.
All of the natural surfaces are flesh. Ugh. And the rivers are like stomach acid. Ugh. And sometimes it will shift and move because you're in a creature.
It'd be funny if it's another plane that is inside of a creature, but you're actually just really tiny and you're inside of like just some dude.
There you go. Like a dude named Geth or whatever.
Yeah, you would later meet a guy named Geth or something, and
it's like, yeah, man, I've had the weirdest indigestion.
Oh man, my stomach hurts.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, your wizard casted fireball inside his stomach at one point, and he's just like, oh man, I've had ulcers. Oof.
There you go. All right, and then so our next social media question is: if you could have any D&D racial ability, what would it be? Because we the answer the question we're going to be discussing next week is if you could have any skill or tool proficiency.
Oh, sure.
Because a lot of people responded to that with racial and class abilities, I figured let's do racial abilities next. So if you could have any racial ability, what would it be? So we're talking dark vision. We're talking trance. We're talking the orc thing where like if you take damage, you like stay conscious or something. Maybe I'm thinking of something from another edition.
I think that's about right. Or it might be a different edition, but yeah, I get what you're talking about.
Yeah. So yeah, any racial ability that you would start with? Start with like
sure. Gabe, you might get mad at me, but tiefling wings.
Okay. All right. So that's the end of this episode. Everybody, catch you next time. Bye.
Podcast is over. We're done. Last episode. I mean, well, flight would be awesome. Like having wings to be able to fly, that obviously would be really cool. But I mean, like if we're not counting tieflings, it'd be the what is it? The Aarakocra. Do they have
so wings is what you're getting at again?
Well, right, but they have wings. But I think with the tiefling ones, it's like you have arms and legs, and then you have wings on your back. Like it's like they're like demon wings versus like your hands are also the ends of your wings kind of thing.
Sure.
And I don't know if I dig that. Like if I had wings, I'd want like the ones on the back sort of thing. I was also trying to think like how would you do like have a racial thing ability from like Warforged, like not having to sleep, but I like sleeping, not having to breathe, but that'd be kind of weird.
I mean, it's only weird if you flaunt it, I guess.
Well, not having to breathe would be pretty cool. Like that'd be just not having to worry about that anymore. Like it's just like, oh cool, like you just go anywhere. Or at the very least, like like aquatic elf or whatever, be able to like, maybe like a swim speed, maybe even like
swim speed would be cool.
Because like people can swim, but having like a swim speed where you can like swim just as fast as you can run.
Yeah, like or it's just it is not even something you have to think about.
Yeah,
you can just naturally move as easily as you can walk.
Right. So I mean, like, I'm sure there's some Olympic swimmers that can get pretty quick, but like if it was effortless, that'd be pretty neat.
Yeah. I actually don't even know. I haven't really put much thought into this. Off the top of my head, I would say dark vision. I think it'd be cool to be able to see in the dark, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, yeah, that would be good. Like, especially for driving at night. Oof.
Yeah, that'd be nice. So I got laser eye surgery a bunch of years ago. And ever since then, like my dark vision is like my sight at night is not as good as it used to be. Mm-hmm. It's not bad, but like I definitely have less focus on things that are in the dark.
Sure. Your eyes don't adjust as well to the darkness.
Yeah. Like I would still take this over not having had it done.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Any day.
No, it's definitely,
but that is,
I feel like
that
it's
is
a
a
fair
drawback.
trade because it's like, well, you're not, you're typically not trying to be looking around in the dark anyway,
Sure.
So
Yeah.
just, I guess carry more flashlights. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So I'll see if anybody has any interesting answers to that, So that'll do it for our questions for the week. But before we close out, let's sit back. Let's take a deep breath. Let's remember those who have come before us, who have paved the way, that we may have a better world to live in, as we toss another log onto the funeral pyre. This is a particularly appropriate one, I think. Today's funeral pyre was submitted by Amora Swift Strike on Reddit, and it goes as follows. I was given an item by a DM that could rewind time by a few seconds. Another player triggered a trap that killed his character. I used the bead to take the fall instead.
Aw.
So, yeah, pretty simple. They use time travel to save a life at the expense of their own.
That's pretty cool.
And so we raise a glass in memory of Amora Swift Strike's character, who makes us ask, all right, that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the funeral pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned on the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. Join the discussion on social media. Find us on Facebook. We're on Reddit. We're on Twitter at InPartyConflict. We've also got our Interparty Discord. Check those out for our weekly social media questions. Your answers might end up on the show. Find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you'd like to support the show, check out the rewards at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. We have a few different tiers, so anything you can spare would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content for it. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is a YouTube channel where we play video games.
Yep. And speaking of video games, check out my side project, the Arcade Memories Podcast. If you'd like to submit any childhood memories of your own, send them to me at arcadememoriespodcast@gmail.com. Also, head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict to take a short survey about our show. What you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hacker's RPG. So, Jeff, until next time.
Wait, we should go back and redo this one.
You think so?
Nah. All right.